Greetings everybody, this is HipKitUp with another video. So in this video, I'm going to ask, do democracy and human rights have universal validity, or are they a form of cultural imperialism? So, there is a duality when dealing with the implementation and promotion of democracy and human rights around the world. On the one hand, we have those who claim that these values have a universal validity. On the other hand, we have those who argue that they are a form of cultural imperialism because of three main arguments: cultural relativism, meaning, and hard power. First of all, according to cultural relativism, beliefs and practices should be understood based on the culture that surrounds them. For this reason, every state, considering its national circumstances, has a sovereign right to decide on political systems and rights for itself. Secondly, democracy has many meanings, and there is no clear definition of human rights nor an objective definition of violation of human rights. Many theorists and political leaders who oppose these ideals use cultural and anti-imperialism to state that such values are just expressions of Western dominations and expansion. Finally, many people say that this international promotion of human rights and democracy is only done by hard power. In other words, there have been many wars between countries, with the only casus belli being the spread of democracy and of rights. Also, in the case of Benjamin Barber's 1992 Macworld situation, there is a push against boundaries only for economic imperatives and not for democratic imperatives. Nevertheless, these arguments have little basis when we analyze them. Freeman argues that cultural relativism is just an ideological attempt to justify authoritarian government, and according to Lower, cultural relativist arguments are often a shallow tool used to impede the application of human rights. In other words, cultural and anti-imperialism obscure many problems with authoritarian regimes. Taking into consideration BBC's radio program Analysis in 2018, an example that illustrates this would be China. This country heavily intervenes in strategic and resource-abundant countries, especially using debt diplomacy. In the meanwhile, neocolonialism is a harmful term used to portray the Western world as an informal empire that exchanges liberalized policies and the opening of markets for dominance. According to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, everyone has the right to a free and equal life based on dignity and security. It may be pointed out by some that this declaration is just to expand Eurocentric points of view, but forbidding torture and inhumane treatments is not cultural imperative. Rather, it is an ethical stance that should be considered as a universal value. Are cultures and systems that defend cruel treatment, such as slavery, and thus oppose the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, worth respecting and preserving? Another argument of cultural relativism is that human rights are too individualistic, typical of Western cultures. In fact, human rights have more validity than culture, because since every culture is made up of individuals, all individual rights are cultural rights. Even if democracy has universal validity, what do we mean when we talk about it? Democracy is an umbrella term that goes from having elections without considering aspects such as judicial independence to the procedure for the execution of the government and its feasible alternation. As stated by Przeworski, for there to be democracy, people delegate certain powers to an agent like the executive and legislative branches of power that takes responsibility for carrying out a task. In addition, there should be alternation. That is, the opposition should have the real chance of winning the election, and the party in the government would accept their own laws. According to C. Douglas Lomas, democracy is grounded in the faith that each culture must contain a democratic version of itself. Furthermore, Karsten J. Struhl argues that democracy has universal validity in the sense that each culture has resources within itself to bring it into being, and must find a democratic form that fits its specific needs and cultural sensibilities. Paraphrasing Benjamin Barber, we live in a world where dull and brutal realities that are indifferent or antithetical to universal values exist and prevail in most of the world. To defend universal values such as democracy and human rights, we need to emancipate those countries that do not have them. Their spread can be done with peaceful soft power, not a hard power method. Taking into consideration Przeworski's definition of democracy, political power depends on social support, and thus those in power have the desire to confront social and economic values. As a result, democracy peacefully leads to human rights and vice versa. All in all, cultural diversity can be harmful if culture is used to deny universal recognition of human rights or impedes the application of democracy. Therefore, democracy and human rights have universal validity and are not a form of cultural imperialism. Thank you all for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed and learned something new. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. See you soon.